This is Hidden Killers Week in Review.
A look back at the most prolific stories of the week.
Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
You never really know someone until you find out what they've buried. Welcome to Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski, featuring retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer.
Let's talk about another piece in the Diddy case, another lawsuit filed this week. This one was Thalia Graves. She claims that back in 2001, Diddy and his then bodyguard Joseph Sherman drugged and assaulted her, sexually assaulted her, and filmed it, and then distributed it. That's the other part that really gets me about this whole damn thing. This is a non-consensual thing. You're filming it, and then you're showing your friends this and distributing it as porn. What is going through one's mind? I mean, he must have been at some level of just thinking he has such power that one could film a rape and share it with others, and others are going to be like, "Oh, okay, that's great." You would think that if you're engaged in this sort of activity, you're not wanting to put it on camera.
Right. But there was nothing that Diddy thought he wasn't going to be able to get away with. I mean, this goes clear back to 2008 that they have documented. And I would argue that it's much prior to that, which is exactly what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see more photographic evidence, more video evidence. They are going to come out of the woodwork now because they're emboldened. I think before they were afraid. It's anytime, we always would say this, anytime you got a drug kingpin or an organized crime kingpin in prison, you take their power away, and you put people in a situation that they're now more comfortable to come forward. They're not afraid anymore. And I think that's what we're going to see here.
That former bodyguard that we talked about earlier, that mentioned that there was politicians involved in some of this stuff, also suggested that they need to take a closer look at the death of Kim Porter, his former girlfriend and mother of several of his children who died, I believe it was 2017, of lobar pneumonia. She was cremated. There's no body to pull up anymore to do any sort of testing on. When you looked at the odds, when we looked at the odds of someone dying, if assuming she was in a healthy condition, and we don't know for sure, but from all understanding she was, until she contracted the pneumonia, 3% chance of death for someone about the age of 47, assuming she was in good health. Those aren't the greatest odds, but she died. She allegedly, she knew a lot about Diddy. If anybody who was around Diddy, Cassie Ventura, others, then you were with him in that sort of capacity, you probably had a pretty good idea of what his lifestyle was like, and he probably had a vested interest in others not finding out about what his lifestyle was like if somebody wanted to go talk about it publicly, or maybe want full custody of the kids, saying this is not a good place for them to grow up. All speculation. How, and do you think they should take a closer look at her death? But how do you, at this point, get any sort of evidence when there is no body to re-examine or do a new autopsy on?
Well, there is a new book out, and according to that author, there's photographic evidence of her being beaten. In other words, the results of being beaten by Diddy. There's other information that is in some sort of memoir. But I also saw, Tony, very interestingly, a lot of people saying this is just unfair. It's unfair to the family. It's unfair to the children to dredge all of this up when it was determined that she died as a result of natural causes, if you will. So it's there's so many victims involved in this, Tony. As you mentioned, every day, every hour, new people are coming forward, and their claims are legitimate when you match them up against the indictment. In other words, they're the same sort of activity of sexual assault, of now even filming. And meaning if the federal authorities get more and more actual video and photographic evidence, this case is it's just becoming such a slam dunk.
Yeah, it's just getting more and more shocking by the day. It's one of those things right now too, where someone could say almost anything about Diddy, and if it's dark, it's believable. And I'm wondering if the Kim Porter case is one of those where it's just kind of it's a dark story, it's a sad story, but everything seems to be up for grabs and for reevaluation of what happened around Diddy over the last 30 years. That I think it's a fair question to ask. Is there something else going on here? Yes, I hate the idea of having to drudge this stuff up again, and the family to hear this, but there's just so much darkness around Diddy, and that might just be a really sad, disturbing reality for some of these kids to understand, if it does come to be that maybe Diddy did have something to do with her death. Just conjecture, but he obviously had a lot to do with a lot of other horrible things that you wouldn't want to think your dad was involved in. I don't think anything is off the table here right now.
I don't think anything is off the table. Unfortunately, though, her body is not available to be exhumed, to look and see if there was anything that was taken, if there were any sort of sedating, materials that could have kept her on her back that could have attributed to pneumonia. We don't know. I don't know if they'll ever be able to prove, that he was involved in any way. But geez, with everything happening, I think the sad thing is we're all saying we wouldn't be surprised. Makes some sense.
I mean, the only thing I can think of on this would be some sort of a digital footprint, if it can even be found at this point, looking back at emails, texts, anything that they can find of his communication about her at that moment in time. Lobar pneumonia, pneumonia of any type, if left untreated, can kill you. Or if you don't treat it properly, and the person thinks they are being treated properly, can kill you. That's kind of what I'm wondering about with this case. I fully believe she developed it. There are other things that can present that way through poisoning. But if she did have this, did Diddy see that as a way out for her? A way where he doesn't have to kill her, technically, directly. But if the treatments and this is just pure speculation, if she wasn't being treated properly or wasn't given the medications that she thought she was being given, that can kill somebody. And it's natural causes as well. If you don't have to even use poison, you can just let them die from the actual pneumonia itself. Diddy's a tricky individual, and he will go to any lengths, it seems, to protect what he wants and to get what he wants. That's one of the things I'm speculating on right now with the death of Kim Porter.
Yeah, the problem is it's just too much death and destruction around him. And so it seems like something that could have not been nefarious is now nefarious.
True.
It's certainly believable, right? I mean, normally you would never guess that a husband could be involved in this, but now you're looking at it, you're saying, yeah, but it's Diddy.
Yeah. I'm sure if given the opportunity, he certainly would not want to have the Cassie information come out either, or any of the other lawsuits that he settled about his horrible behavior over the years. And he settled those in court. I'm just wondering if Kim Porter had too much information and too much for him to lose, that it just couldn't be settled in court. It couldn't be a civil agreement of I'm going to give this money and you're going to shut up. There's kids involved here. That's not something you can just settle civilly.
Well, yes, and even if you settle civilly like Cassie Ventura did, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's still going to have to testify regarding the criminal nature of the allegations. So, it doesn't stand up against a subpoena in the federal court. And she's already, I believe, of course, we know this from what we saw in the affidavit. She's already come forward and had to say everything. So there's no protections, I guess I should say, from that a civil lawsuit gives you when the federal government gets involved.
I'm going to guess other bodyguards, like the one that we're talking about earlier, I'm going to guess those went in front of the grand jury or were talked to investigators. Wouldn't they have to have considering how far back they're looking at this case. And if he's saying publicly, look, there were politicians involved and all these people were involved, that right there, there's so many people who can sing, who can tell and say, yeah, here's who was here. I'm sure everybody like this must be talking to investigators. Would they not at this point, when investigators want to talk to everybody who are as close to him like a bodyguard?
Absolutely. If you look at this, they've discussed 50 individuals. I believe that is growing by the day in terms of their investigation, who they're talking to. And there's going to be people that are talking to them that want to come forward with this information and people who don't, but they're going to be compelled and they're going to have to come forward. So slice it any way you want to. Everyone and anyone around Diddy with information is going to have to come clean with the federal investigation. And it's just going to get uglier and uglier.
It's going to take down more people than I think almost any scandal, I think, in recent memory, maybe even bigger than Epstein at this point as it gets darker.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam unnoticed in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.